Hey everyone, welcome back to VIR for our final race of the weekend. In race 1, we were able to bounce back from a disappointing weekend at Mid-Ohio and just missed out on a podium finish. In race 2, we came home 5th after a great battle with Ryan Bjerk and a little bit of revenge for denying us a podium in race 1. For this race, we'll be starting 6th. Scott Rubenzer is just ahead of us, and Ryan is starting 2 spots behind. Looking at the track, it's VIR. We've raced here twice this weekend. It hasn't changed since then. So let's skip ahead for the final corner and get this race started. So starting on the outside again, which is going to make it a little bit difficult to hold our position going into turn 1, but coming up to the green flag, just keeping an eye on the top edge of that green Armco to the right, just trying to get a glimpse of the starting stand. You can see it a little bit just to the right of the barn, to the left of the barn rather. And there they waved the green flag. It looks like we started going a little bit before they waved. Of course, everyone has a hair trigger for any sort of movement coming from the starter's stand or from the starter's arm even. As soon as it moves, everyone's going to go. We're trying to hold on the outside here as Ryan Bjerk slips ahead of us. I think that's, I'm not sure who it is in that blue car, but we're on the inside there, so we should be able to get him back in turn 3 here. As we're not, and he slips ahead, so we're going to have to fight to get that position back. Not a great start, as it looks like Mike Scanlon, I think that is, going around the outside. No, that's one of the race cars. That's, and man, these cars just keep flooding past us. So not a great start. Actually, pretty horrible first lap, or first half of a lap. We've got our work cut out for us as another car behind us threatening us going into the S's, but there's no way to pass there unless you're way alongside. So we're going to have to regroup. Let's start picking off these cars one by one. And we've got a long straightaway coming up here where we might have a shot at getting a spot or 2 back. I think that's Alex Scaler in the blue car. I'm pretty sure that's Ayrton Nori in the yellow car as well. So it's going to be difficult because these guys are pretty fast, but maybe we can follow them past some of the other cars ahead of them. I'm not able to take advantage of the back straightaway to get these positions back, so we'll try the front straightaway. Get a good exit through Hog Pen. We've already pulled a bit of a gap on the car behind us, so we can focus on what's going on in front of us. We've got a bit of a run, but like I said in the last lap, to make a pass in this section, you have to be really alongside. It has to be very decisive, because you can't go through these S's 2 by 2. And that makes it easier for us as that car goes off. That can be a treacherous place to go off. That grass is really bumpy. We have to try to close that gap to Ayrton in front of us. I think we're maybe just sort of catching the remnants of the draft. We're a little bit far behind to be able to really take advantage of it, but Hopefully through the twisty stuff, he's got a bit of traffic in front, so hopefully through the tighter sections of the track we can make up some ground. That's what we're going to have to hope for, at least. And of course, as they start battling with each other, they're going to be slower through the corners, so we can take advantage of that as well. Looks like there's some battling going up front, so hopefully we can take advantage of that. Right now it's just trying to drive cleanly, trying to close that gap in front. Looks like the car behind us. I'm not sure who that is. I think it's Mike Scanlon, or it might be Burton August. That looks like Scott Rubenzer that they just got past. And Scott spins. I took up that track, and I'm going a little bit too fast to keep it on the track, and I get into the grass. Ooh, I almost spin out on my own, or spin out myself. Trying to wipe the grass off. Now the grass is just flooding through the cockpit. And that was Scott Rubenzer that spun, and that's 3 for 3, and in fact I think it's 4 for 4. Every single race, and including qualifying, I think he spun in hog pen. So difficult weekend for him. And so now the radiators have been flooded with grass, and of course they're blocking the airflow through it, and we've already been having trouble, especially in the draft, with engine temperatures, so this is just going to make it that much worse. And of course we've lost contact with the lead pack and all of that. We lost one position, but we gained one because we took Scott Rubenzer's spot. But the real problem right now is going to be the engine temperatures. We have to keep a really close eye on that. And you'll see when the alarms start popping up, you'll see the 4 red lights flashing. And there they go. You can see the red lights flashing on my dashboard. That's warning me that the water temperature is too high. I think I have the alarm set at 215 degrees. And I've been told by people that know these cars really well that when it gets up to about 225, then you have to pull over, because that's game over. That could damage the engine. So there's a little bit of margin for error. Basically, the alarm for me is basically a warning to keep an eye on it, so I can keep dismissing it, and as long as it doesn't get above about 220 or reach 225, then I'm okay. So that's why I'm able to dismiss it and continue on. But we picked up that one position fairly easily, it looks like. We're going to have to keep our eye on that water temperature. And of course, we run plain water in these. We're not allowed to use antifreeze because if it spills on the track, it doesn't evaporate, and it's really hard to clean up, and it's really slippery. So we're not allowed to use antifreeze. I think we're allowed to use something like water wetter, which is basically like dish soap that just raises the heat capacity of the water. And of course, it's under pressure, so obviously water boils at 212 degrees Fahrenheit, but we can get higher pressure or higher temperatures without it boiling off because it's under pressure. I'm not sure what the water pressure is in the system, but it's enough that it can get up to 225 without turning into a gas. It looks like as long as we have clean air, then we'll be okay. But if we follow someone, or if we get in someone's draft, of course that's less air going through the radiators that are now blocked with grass. So that could cause a problem. But for now, it looks like we're okay. I think that one alarm popped up because we were in this car's draft that he is now drafting me, but not enough to make a move. And I noticed that you can see on my right arm there's an armband, a black armband. That's just an elbow pad because my elbow was pounding against the chassis rail, and I have a little pad on there to keep me from bruising too much. If anybody remembers, in 2017 I was driving the Mygale, and I got rid of it partly because it was just too small, and there was no seat in the car, so I was right up against the chassis rails. And that car beat me up. My hips, my knees, my elbows, everything was sore after a weekend. And this car is a lot better. The cockpit of a race car like this is where, half an inch here and there can make a big difference. Especially since I'm not very small. I'm 6 foot, about 215 pounds. So I need every bit of space I can get. As you can see, the water temperature alarm going off again. This time we're in clear air, so I guess the temperature's been building up slowly over the last couple laps. And I can see I dismissed it again because it's only up to about 215. There's some things I can do. It's kind of like saving fuel in IndyCar. Of course, we don't have to save fuel. As you can see, the cross flags, so we're halfway through the race. But similar things, short shifting, coasting. If you're following a car, you can actually, I guess it's the opposite of saving fuel. You can pull out into the clean air to try and get that air back going through the radiators. But the short shifting and in an extreme case, coasting or lifting off early, coasting. But the short shifting, I think, is something that I start doing towards the end of the race. Looks like there's 2 cars behind, one's making a move. and he gets the position. I'm not sure if we're going to be able to get that back. And that's Burton August for sure behind me, and the other race car. Got the draft, so we're going to make the move to the outside since he's defending. We're going to be able to get him. Not quite. That might have left the hole open for Burton to try to sneak through. Not quite. So we weren't able to gain a position, but we were able to fend off the attack. There's the alarm going off again on my steering wheel. Of course, right now my eyes are busy outside the cockpit trying to manage the fight here. See the alarm going off again, so it's getting a little bit more urgent. The time between alarms is lessening. You can see as soon as I turn it off, it comes back on. But it's not getting quite, I think it's getting up about 220, 221 right now. And another thing that starts going off is the oil temperature alarm that I didn't even realize until close to the end of the race. We have an oil cooler on this car, but the problem with it is that it's mounted so that it's kind of parallel to the airflow. And so even when the airflow is going through as it should be, as you can see, Burton kind of makes a move to the outside, and he gets by easily. But he locks up, and that allows us to almost make him counter move, but not quite. So we give him the position. It's going to be a tough fight to get these guys back, because I'm also battling these engine temperatures. I think at a certain point I realized that I just have to back off, because these engines are... The Honda engine is fairly bulletproof, but the one thing that it can be vulnerable to is overheating. They say if you overheat one of these engines, then they're toast. So we really want to avoid that. We want to be really careful when you're playing with these high engine temperatures. But after this race, I think it's after our next race is in Pittsburgh after this, and I think we didn't do it for that race, but a little bit later on in the season we will start cutting holes in the bodywork to try to get the airflow out, and we created a duct to suck clean air in and force it through the oil cooler, so that's been helping with the temperature problems. But this weekend we didn't have any of that, and we've got radiators full of grass. So you can see these guys slowly starting to pull away, just because I've decided, I've been contemplating, since these engine temperature alarms keep popping up, I've been contemplating pulling the car into the pits and just retiring from the race. But that's going to get us, there are championship points at stake here. So as long as it's not getting too much, then I want to stay out. You can see I'm not in the draft. I'm pulling into the clean air to try and cool off these engine. You can see I'm at about 2/3 throttle, just trying not to stress the engine out too much. Try to get that clean air going through the radiators and bring the engine temperatures down. Of course, there's a large gap behind me, so I have some ground to play with before I lose more positions, but I'm not going to be able to get these positions back from the cars in front of me. It's better to nurse the engine to the end of the race. As you can see, even my hands are getting kind of hot as I'm sticking my hands out into the airflow to pull some cool air through my hands and down into the cockpit. It was just a hot day, hot, humid day. Which didn't help things, of course. And you can see I'm pressing the button and the alarm's just coming right back, so I'm starting to get really worried about it now, and I think I finally realized that it's not just the water temp alarm, but it's the oil temperature alarm that's coming on as well. There's the white flag, so we only have one more lap to go. We're almost at the end. Just trying to get the engine to hang on for one more lap. I think it was in the low 90s, just atmospheric temperature today, so it's not doing us any favors. Neither the car nor me. There's nobody in my mirrors. And these guys, obviously, they've checked out. I'm not going to be able to attack them, so we're just trying to nurse the car around the track for the last lap. Still nobody in the mirrors, so we should be pretty much home free for whatever position we're in. We'll take a look at that, of course, as we cross the start-finish line, but we're safely in this position, so we'll be able to nurse the car around to take the checkered flag. And there's the checkered flag. So we've made it to the end of the race. We came home in 9th. A little bit disappointing that we weren't able to continue our top 5 ways that we've pretty much established in the first 2 races this weekend. But happy that we were able to come home at all after we were forced off the track into the grass and battling the engine overheating issues for the entire race. It did cause me to have to, think and sort of use my brain to not blow the engine and live to fight another day. But the engine did survive. There wasn't any permanent damage, so we'll be able to roll on to Pittsburgh for the next race. So we scored 23 points. So if I had pulled over to save the engine, I think we would have scored 1 point. So to get an extra 22, I think it's worth the little bit of risk that it was to drag the engine along for the rest of the race. Looking at the championship, we've gained some ground on Mike Scanlon. I think we finished this race where we started in 13th position, ahead of Dave Petsko and behind Mike Scanlon. But we closed the gap for sure. We're slowly working our way up through the standings after our horrible start to the season. Missing we missed the first 4 of 6 races, or first 5 of 6 races. So we're clawing our way back bit by bit. Like I said, our next race is a week later in Pittsburgh International Raceway, so we have 2 race weekends back to back. So thanks everyone for watching, and we'll see you in Pittsburgh.